Oh, did you mean to do that? Hey, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us. Sorry we had a bit of technical difficulties, but I think everyone should be able to see the screen now. And we're going to go ahead and kick off the tech speed dating today. So we have 4 hot technologies we're going to run through. They are going to take just 15 minutes to review their technology, and at the end of each presentation, we're going to have a drawing for some prizes. And then if you have any additional questions or would like us to follow up, one of our engineers or account executives can meet with you and give you more information on the technologies. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. We'll be going through Zerto, Citrix, Rubrik, and Pure Storage. I apologize. We are still having a little bit of trouble. You can go to the next slide. And for those of you who haven't heard of Freeit before, we're a systems integrator based here in Austin, Texas. We work with multiple different technology partners to build custom data center solutions. And these are just a few. So we'll go ahead and let Zerto get started. I'm going to turn it over to Rodney. Do you have control, Rodney?
Yes, I do. Hopefully you're seeing my screen.
Yep, we do. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm Rodney Hayden. I'm the sales engineer for Zerto. I'm based out of Houston. I cover Austin and San Antonio, and was invited here by Freeit to discuss our solution here for you, not just for disaster recovery, but it also is for IT resiliency and workload management. So really quickly, I'm going to go through some of these slides. I really want to get to the meat of really showing it to you and showing how easy it is. But IT's evolved. Obviously, we're no longer in that physical space. We're in the virtualization space and the software-defined networking. And that's where Zerto has really came into focus of being in that, living in the hypervisor area, being able to have the ability to go not just from a data center to a data center, but out utilizing the cloud resources that are available to you. And then as we talk about it, yes, of course, Zerto's used for disasters. And though we're living through, Hurricane Harvey down here in Florida, unfortunately, Irma, that's the big news, but most of the time a disaster is not a natural disaster. Most of the time it's something to do within the walls of the data center that you're at. So we're talking power failures, hardware failures, network outages, things of that nature. So I just want to make sure people are aware that, hey, you may think you're set in terms of that huge disaster that may never come to you, but there's those smaller ones, the human errors and everything else that happens, and the fact that most companies actually do declare disaster, 1 in 3 in the last 5 years. So we talk about what is it with Zerto and in terms of resiliency, and I'm going to open up this slide. I'm not going to go through every single line here, but I want to make sure you guys understand that we live in that hypervisor space. We are agnostic in terms of that, whether it's VMware, whether it's Microsoft Hyper-V, and whether it's different versions within those. So we have many customers. You do not have to have like-to-like from your source side to your target side, nor do you have to have like-to-like hardware. So if you're utilizing Pure storage or going to try-pure storage, this is a perfect solution to get you over to that so that you have that capability. Was there a question there, or was that just... Okay, so the ability of us having the journal capabilities and RPOs of seconds allow you to really reduce your impact, to be able to remove some risk and to be able to actually state, hey, I can scroll back in just seconds increments to right before the disaster occurred, and being able to bring those systems up. And whether it's a fast migration that you need, whether it's a move, or whether it's a true failover that you need to occur, those things happen in minutes. So again, RPOs in seconds, RTOs in minutes, and the targets could be almost anything, right? A secondary data center utilizing a different type of hypervisor, or maybe you're utilizing cloud, whether it be Microsoft Azure, Amazon, IBM, or maybe one of the 400 Zerto cloud service providers that utilize Zerto as their disaster recovery as a service solution. Any one of those could be going there. And the beauty is you're always using the exact same interface. So whether you're going to any of those targets, whether you're living on any of that hypervisor, you're utilizing the exact same dashboard, hitting the same clicks, being able to do those moves, those migrations, or those failovers for that. So how does it work? So this is the meat. This is where I really want to talk to you about it. And we really come down to basically three major components that I want to talk to you about. The first one being the Zerto Virtual Manager. So we have this management component. Think of it as the automation engine behind Zerto, so that whenever you do a failover, you do a test, a migration, your VMs are put on the correct data store, the correct network, the host, you have the proper boot delays. All that's done from the Zerto Virtual Manager. The next step is the virtual replication appliances, and they are aptly named because what are they? Well, they're virtual appliances that handle the replication. So as you're making changes on the production side, and as that acknowledgement comes back from the data store, we compress that data, shoot it across the wire, and give it. And that gives us the capability to have that near sync replication. So that's why we talk about RPOs in seconds, and being able to shoot them over and having them available to you. So those, each time one of those are done, the checkpoint is created from there, and it's a consistency grouping of all of the VMs within that application that you decide to have that set there. The third major component is that journaling space. So again, whether you want it to be, just, hey, an hour ago, or you want 30 days, you have the capability with, if some corruption occurred or some malware has occurred, being able to select exactly what point in time that you really want to go through. And that's not just to one data center that we're talking about, but we actually do a one-to-many concept. So we have customers not only doing a local copy, but shooting out to the cloud, as well as their secondary data center. And it could be any combination therewith. And the journaling can be any combination therewith, depending on, hey, maybe for a local copy, I only want 72 hours, but for out in Azure, I actually want to keep a full 30 days of journaling for that system. So you have that capability, you have that ability to do so. So what does it look like? I said, hey, it's a simple dashboard. It's a simple interface that you can do. This is a slideshow that shows that. How easy it is. Everything is nice and green. You can at a glance see, hey, how many VPGs, those virtual protection groups I talked about, those applications that you're protecting, how many VMs are included within that, and hey, what is my average RPO, and what's the compression I'm getting from that? All shown to you at a glance, so you can very easily see where you're at and how you're doing in terms of protection. Then a disaster occurs, whatever that case may be, but for some reason, hey, I need to actually go in and actually utilize Zerto and bring up those systems. So how does that actually work? Well, there's a failover button in the lower right-hand corner. That's the first thing you would click to start the process to get those systems running over into your disaster recovery side. You would select which applications. Maybe you need all of them, or maybe just a subset. You have the granularity and the ability to select which ones you do, and beyond that, you have the granularity and the availability to actually select what point in time that you wanted to do. Because I talked to you about those checkpoints, about that journaling capability that we have. Do you want the latest? That's easy. That's by default. It's going to say, hey, here's the latest checkpoint I just did. But oh, nope, there was some corruption. There was something going on with the database at that point. I want to go further back, and whether it's just minutes back, whether it's just hours back, or whether it's days, depending on the length of the journal that you have all of those checkpoints, and those checkpoints are each usually 5 to 6 seconds apart in terms of the ability to select where you want to go. You then select that, and you click Start Failover, and it's that easy. There, you've just started going. So what's happening at that point? Well, at that point, the Zerto Virtual Manager on that side is actually creating those VMs for you on the other side. It's detaching the data stores, the VMDKs off of the VRA, and actually attaching them to those new VMs and booting them up. So that's why it's minutes, because it's usually how long does it take for those VMs to actually come up. If you wanted to do it for a test rather than a true disaster, you can run those within an isolated bubble network. You're not stopping your protection at any point in time on that. You're extending your protection out as you're doing testing towards that to make sure, hey, validation of the fact that, hey, this is working for you, and people are able to actually make sure that those VMs are coming up properly, they're coming up in the right networks, and the host and the boot delays, etc. for that. We also have a lot of customers that are actually utilizing Zerto for moves, where they're actually saying, hey, I want to move it from one site to another, and they can do that, whether it's to a secondary data center, again, whether it's out to the cloud. If you're using a hybrid cloud strategy, this is a great way to migrate your systems up into that environment. Automatic failback is obviously very important. So, hey, not only did I do a failover, but can I get those systems back? That is a big piece of Zerto. One of our major customers, Wood Forest National Bank, actually uses us every 6 months. They migrate their entire production out of Houston and out up to Austin, and then 6 months later they bring it back. So the ability to have that automatic failback is crucial for them, and the main reason that they utilized Zerto for that process. Did that very quickly. I wanted to talk to you really about the reporting functionality. Anytime you do a test, a failover, a migration, or a move, a report is generated showing the detailed recovery steps of what occurred, so you're always in compliance with any three-letter acronym of your choice that is there, so that you can prove to auditors, yes, our failovers are working, whether it's a testing auditing that, hey, our DR is in place, or whether you had to utilize it for a true failover or move. So that is basically it. I try to make sure I fit in within the time constraints. Hopefully I did well here for you.
Yes, thank you, Rodney. That was perfect. So we will go into the first prize drawing, and it's for the Amazon Echo Show. And then before we do that though, I forgot to mention that if you had questions during any of the presentations, you could send a chat message, and we will go ahead and answer questions at the end. So I just wanted to quickly let you all know to do that. And let's just do a drawing here real quick. And we have Stephen Koenig. So at the end also, if you hear your name anytime during the presentation, I'll have my email address up, and please reach out, and we will set up a time to get you that prize. All right, Bob, Citrix is up next.
Hey, there we go. Can you hear me all right?
We can.
And can you see me okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm Bob Floyd, sales engineer with Citrix. I cover a significant part of the central U.S. For a specific customer group. I'm out of Dallas, but I've got North Texas, Southwest Texas, which includes Austin, and then Arkansas, Oklahoma, and most of Illinois, oddly enough. Today I wanted to talk about Citrix Cloud because that's the big thing in cloud's kind of a big buzzword at the moment. If there's one thing I want you to get out of this, above and beyond just talking about the technology, it's that when you hear Citrix Cloud, don't think hosting. Citrix doesn't actually host any of our cloud offerings. We're talking about true SaaS here. We integrate fully with Azure, with AWS, SoftLayer, whoever you actually want to use. The Citrix Cloud platform actually provides you with a way to take care of your management needs as opposed to your hosting needs. So we'll work with just about anybody. We're going to take the entire Citrix portfolio, XenApp, XenDesktop, XenMobile, ShareFile, and NetScaler, and move it into the cloud. This is going to give you a single integrated workspace available in one place, with Citrix handling the day-to-day maintenance on the back end. And what this platform is going to give you is that standard integrated approach where we marry all of the various pieces and parts that you see here into one place and take care of it for you. To give you an idea what I'm talking about, I actually want to show you what a traditional deployment would look like on-prem. So you can see these are all the various pieces and parts for a traditional Citrix deployment. There's a lot of moving pieces there, right? A lot of different devices that are going to have to be deployed, a lot of separate installations that are going to have to be done, and then of course the day-to-day maintenance that goes with that. And all of it's going to be handled by the customer or the partner in this particular case. So that's a lot of upkeep to go through. That's also a fairly long installation cycle. We go to Citrix Cloud. This is what we're talking about doing. We're going to lift all of the management pieces and parts, and we're going to move those into the cloud. We're going to take care of that deployment for you, and then we're going to take care of the day-to-day maintenance for you. We're going to provide connectivity through the connector that you see there at the top of the bottom box, the resource location box. And we'll talk more about those connectors here in just a second, but that just leaves on-site your VDAs, be that application delivery or desktop delivery, your Active Directory, and then if you want, NetScaler. However, we can put NetScaler in the cloud as well. In fact, what I'm going to show you here in just a second is run through a cloud-based NetScaler. The beauty behind all of this is that now Citrix is going to take care of the deployment for that upper end of things. We're also going to take care of the day-to-day maintenance and patching. XenApp XenDesktop service is on 2-week sprints at the moment, meaning we've got new patches or deployments coming out every couple of weeks. And granted, we don't release all of that to on-prem every 2 weeks. We've got a release cycle there. But if you're in the cloud, you get everything when it comes out. Now, the number one question we get about cloud is, what happens in terms of availability? So I want to speak to that just for a minute before I actually move into showing you what it looks like on the back side. This is the way it's laid out. Our control plane, all of the components are mirrored in an active deployment, geographically separated into different data centers. So you'll have an A side and a B side, and they will be in separate physical locations, protecting you against both natural disasters, as you know we've seen quite a bit of here in the last couple of weeks, as well as any type of local man-made disasters. You're not going to lose everything because a data center loses power and goes down or something odd happens. This also allows us to upgrade in sequence. So what happens during an upgrade cycle is that the A side will get taken offline and updated and then brought back online and tested to make sure we've got connectivity and continuity. Then the B side will be updated. If there are any problems, the process stops and you've got a fully functional set still in place. Those connectors talk back and forth to both places. Both data centers are front-ended by NetScaler load balancers, which talk back and forth, and both sides get used equally. Now what I want to do is drop out of the slides, because I'm not the biggest fan of slides in the world, and give you an idea what the actual dashboard and offering looks like, and then we'll do a login for you so you can see what's going on. This is my cloud offering dashboard. You can see I've got a little bit of everything here. This is a sandbox that's created for the sales engineers to play with. And you can see that I've got just about everything possible here. Yours is going to show the offerings that you've got, or it's going to show you a quick way how to buy, right? Because we always want you to use more Citrix products. We go into the XenApp and XenDesktop service. I've already got that up over here. This is what your dashboard looks like. If you are today an existing Citrix customer, this actually ought to start to look fairly familiar. It's just moved off of a local server and put out in your cloud. You can see here I've got a number of different zones deployed in my configuration. I started with this because I wanted you to see kind of how versatile the whole thing is. You've got my zone that's up right now, hence the BF. And then you've got 3 other zones below me. These are other sales engineers that are geographically separated from me. Dan's zone is in St. Louis. Fritz's zone is again here in Dallas because he covers a lot of the same territory I do. And then at the bottom here, Shannon's in Louisiana. We're all sharing the same back end with different domains, different forests, and different users. But we're all using the exact same Citrix interface to manage everything. So if you've got multiple domains, if you've got multiple forests, if you're geographically separated, all of this can be managed through one location. You set up your zone first, and then you go in and create your host. You can see I'm tied back to a Xen server hypervisor here in my lab. And then you start to create your machine catalogs. This is where you set up your actual VDA environments. I've got a Windows 2016 standard virtualized server here set up for XenApp and XenDesktop. The service delivery mechanism, again, this is a full cloud, I say full cloud, this is a hybrid cloud implementation in that my VDAs are local in my environment here in Dallas, but I'm using a storefront hosted in the cloud. You can do storefront either place. This is actually where your users log in and make a connection. If you've got users outside the data center, working from home, working on the road, they can connect through a cloud storefront. You can also deploy a storefront internally for a more efficient and better performing environment for your users actually working out of the office. And you can deploy both of them at the same time. I also have NetScaler Gateway hosted out of the cloud. This is my gateway as a service. This is a simple configuration. You can see that I've got just a checkbox here, and that configures my entire gateway right there, right out of the cloud. You can use Gateway in your resource location, in other words, in your own data center. Either way you want to set that up. If you use Citrix Cloud, you do get access to NetScalers as part of the cloud service that you can implement in your own environment. There's also a monitor built in that's going to track your connections, the current sessions. I don't have anything tied in at the moment. I will here in a second, though. We go back to the full configuration. The last thing you're going to want to do is set up your delivery groups. And once you get your delivery group set up, it's going to pop up here. There we go. You can see I've got my delivery group set up and my server tied to it. What this actually looks like on the back end, I'm going to open up my Xen server interface here. You can see my VMs here. What I really wanted to show you is how simple this actually is. I've got basically just 4 virtual machines here. I've got my standard 2016 virtual desktop server, 2 Citrix cloud connectors. The cloud connectors are installed on top of a Windows server, and you can use almost any server. There are a couple of limitations. You shouldn't put it on a domain controller, and a couple other places you shouldn't put it, but you're not going to have to spin up brand new separate VMs for this. These install directly on top of it, and they're kept evergreen by Citrix on the back end. So we're not just going to maintain your data center infrastructure, we're also going to maintain the cloud connectors that tie to that data center infrastructure. The cloud connectors are there strictly for authentication purposes, back and forth between us and your domain, and for identifying the virtual desktop appliances that you've got in your data center. It's pure 443 communication, and it's pretty much all outbound. And then I've got a single domain controller. I do have one additional thing. The license server up here is just an appliance, and it's there purely to license my Xen server. Everything else is handled in the cloud. To give you an idea what we're talking about, let me bring that back up. We're going to go log in real quick. We're going to log into Storefront. Storefront is going to show me my available desktops. And in this particular case, I've got it configured to auto log in. We're going to open Receiver. And my desktop is going to come straight up. Everything managed through the cloud with a desktop in my personal lab right here in Dallas. We don't care about that. And just to show you that it is where I said it is, we'll open it up and show you, here's the name for what I'm running right here. And that is pretty much Citrix Cloud in a nutshell.
All right, great job. And now for our next giveaway, the Sonos Play 3 speaker. And Peter Marsh. All right. Okay, Todd, you're up with Rubrik.
All right. Well, thank you, and thanks to Freeit for thanks for inviting me to this TechSpeedDating. Let's see. Can you see my? There we go.
Yep.
All right. We should be live. All right. Yep. Thanks everyone. My name is Todd Barton. I'm the sales engineering manager covering TOLA. I'm here on behalf of Rubrik. Relatively young company, been kind of on the market about the last 2.5 years, but we've been creating quite a wave. So let me introduce Rubrik. The story really begins with our founders, as most startups do. Our chief entrepreneur and our CEO is his name is Bipul, and not long ago he was part of a VC that helped support and get Nutanix off the ground and running. And as HCI, hyperconverged, began to take root in the marketplace, he began to look around and thought, well, where else can we take this idea of convergence and apply it to the data center? And so if we go all the way back into the 90s, he saw an opportunity around the backup space, really data management. And if you're familiar with backup, you know that it's typically made up of a lot of discrete components. You have your software, you have backup servers, proxies, agents, a catalog database that needs care and feeding. And then back in the 90s, you would take all that source data and move it off to tape, and then you have to then manage the tape. As we move forward into the 21st century, there was some innovation done, mainly around the back end, backup to disk, backup storage. And then, of course, we had the what came to market in the form of dedupe. So deduplication came on. So those were pretty good improvements, but in large, there was still a lot of components to manage. And when you're talking about at scale, as we moved in from the physical world into the virtual world, and now cloud and web scale, as it went from dozens of virtual machines to hundreds and then thousands, this approach simply did not fit anymore. And so what Bipul and the rest of the founders, a lot of them were from Google, from Facebook, and from Oracle, what they decided was, let's take all these discrete components normally associated with data management and backup, and let's put them into a single software experience. And so that's, in fact, what Rubrik is. It's a software fabric that can be loaded into an appliance. Today we sell what's called a brick, and that's a 2U 4-node appliance That same software can be applied to other hardware manufacturers like HP, Cisco, Lenovo, as well as be applied in, say, remote offices or branch offices environments through a virtual appliance, as well as being deployed directly into the cloud to help protect native cloud applications. But in essence, what we're helping customers do is protect all of their data applications or their application data, whether that lives on-prem, on private cloud, or if they're starting to push out into public cloud. Now, how it works, and I'll expand this a couple of bullet points here, is imagine your primary environment. You've got your virtual machines, and today we support VMware, we support Hyper-V, we support Acropolis, we support physical hosts, Linux and Windows. We also support databases, Microsoft SQL Server and Oracle, as well as NAS and Windows file sets. So imagine you have this pretty typical data center. For us, it's a pretty quick start. We can rack, stack, and go in a matter of less than an hour and auto-discovery your entire environment. So we can really begin the protection process in less than 60 seconds. The way the on-prem, the bricks are built is we use a flash-optimized parallel ingest. So really what that means is we're using both flash technology as well as spinning drives to give us both fast ingest and then store that on larger capacity spinning drives. And our approach is to leverage some technologies that have been around for a while. So for example, we're using a network block device for a first full and then an incremental forever. So we take a first full snapshot, what we call a backup. We back that up onto our brick, our appliance, and you can stack multiple bricks into a cluster. And then at that point, we will do our compression, deduplication, and then store that off onto the hard drives. Now, we get away from a lot of the legacy approaches in terms of setting traditional backup schedules and jobs. Instead, we use this approach called an SLA domain. And really, that's an automated policy-based approach. Really, what the administrator would do or the end user would do is set up an RTO and RPO, and do you want to send some of these backups off-site or into the cloud? So it's really just how often do you want to take a snapshot, how long do you want to retain it, and then do you want to keep an off-site copy? When we send out that data, we also extend the metadata, and that metadata allows us to do quick searches and index not only the virtual machines, for example, but files within that virtual machine. So recovery of a single file that's perhaps been archived out to the cloud, we can restore down a single file. And I'll give you an example of that in my demo. Just to round out the rest of the capabilities, instant recovery, a couple of really unique features. One is we can take a backed up virtual machine or a snapshotted virtual machine, and we can restore live from our appliance. Each of these bricks can support about 30,000 IOPS, rough and tough, and effectively present that virtual machine back to an ESX host. And the same can be applied to a SQL database. So for those SQL database administrators that want to quickly recover or present a production copy of their database so they can use, I don't know, an ad hoc query, they can do patching, they can restore a table or some rows. This is a really unique way to do that. And we can do that in less than 60 seconds. We have customers who have terabyte-sized databases, multi-terabyte-sized databases, and are doing restores. The last two things is that we have end-to-end encryption, both software and hardware-based. Our backups are stored in an immutable format. They're air-gapped from any ransomware concerns there. And then finally, we're fully embracing the cloud today with AWS and Azure, so we can cloud out for archiving purposes. We can cloud on for instantiation of those archives, so we can do test dev or DR. And then finally, we can natively protect cloud applications with our cloud cluster. So ultimately, what we're helping a lot of organizations do is move away from this, very siloed, very component-driven type of approach toward data protection, It almost looks like a data center to protect the data center. What we want to do is put red X's on all of those discrete components, converge them down into a single software experience based on a web scale architecture. We can do that through, as I mentioned, on-prem with our bricks. We can also do push out into the cloud, and you can see what we're supporting today in terms of cloud, Azure and Amazon. Now, as you find other use cases where customers are really beginning to embrace the cloud, there's really ways that you can take a look at this. If I go back actually to this point, we have a lot of customers that start here. They have a traditional on-prem data center in which they have applications and data sitting within that data center, and they want a better way to protect. They want to dump all those discrete components, and a Rubrik brick can certainly fit the bill. But as the use cases for cloud continue to grow and these customers are embracing the cloud, one way that they can use this is, of course, for archiving. And so customers are taking, creating a retention policy, and they're storing it on-prem, and then say after 30 days, they want to use that very low-cost cloud storage, S3 for Amazon or Azure cold blob storage, and they can send those backup jobs into either one of those clouds. For testing, they can instantiate those archives in the form of an EC2, stand that up, or in Azure, turn on to Azure Compute. And then we have a lot of customers who are wanting to even further their protection and replicate between clouds, let's say one region of Amazon to another region, if they so desire, or from one cloud provider to another cloud provider, let's say from Amazon to Azure or back and forth. And then even a last use case, customers that are fully deployed into the cloud, 100% cloud enabled, but they do want an on-prem for testing, QA, staging, patching, DR purposes. There's multiple use cases there. So it's really a 360-degree way of looking about how application data management can be achieved with Rubrik. Now, as I'm looking around for proof points, we had a couple recently, proof points around our adoption, if you will. One is at VMworld. Recently we got back from VMworld in Vegas, and things were looking really good there. We won Best of Show and Gold Award. And then finally, we won, rather added to the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So validation, if you will, at the market level. So let me just show one quick demo. Move over to my lab. This is the dashboard. It's an HTML5 dashboard. Most of our users simply use this, but we have a lot of customers who fully wrap their arms around DevOps. And so we're built on a REST API, and you can consume all of our REST APIs from whatever tools that you'd like. Customers using us as part of a VRO inside of VRA, people using Puppet, Chef, whatever, PowerShell. There's many ways to consume this. Now, we have a Google-like search capability, so I'm going to give you one specific use case for recovery. Of course, we'd want to set up SLA domains for protection. Let's say we have a virtual machine that's been protected, and inside of that virtual machine, we have a file that we need to recover from. So in this case, I've got my Windows virtual machine that I'll pick up from. And what's really interesting here is that perhaps this virtual machine, you'll notice these blue dots. What these represent are just time and dates that we have recovery points. So if I need to recover from, let's say, an event on September 10th, you can see here that I've got all of these versions sitting here. So I need to recover a board report for my CEO. So we have the ability to do predictive search. Notice I have 42 versions. And as I scroll down to the bottom, you'll notice that these are archived off to the cloud, but I also can recover more, on locally. So let me do that. I can choose to download to my desktop or restore to a secondary location. In this case, I want to take a look at this file before it hits my user who lost the file. It's already started that process. In fact, by the time I get there, it'll probably be there. Yep, in fact it is, and there is my lost board report. So, a very short version of one way that we can recover, multiple use cases that we can apply this here. And so what we say at Rubrik is don't back up, go forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Todd. Okay, so now we have the Nintendo Switch giveaway, and the winner is Seth Fellow. And for our final product presentation, we're going to go into Pure Storage. I'm going to turn it over to Chad.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
My apologies. How do I share the screen? Oh, there we go.
Can you see it? Perfect. We can see it.
You can see it? You can hear me? Good.
Very good. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thanks again for joining us. We know you all are super busy, so again, appreciate the time. I want to introduce you to Pure Storage real quickly. Pure Storage is a platform for the cloud era, right? And it's an all-flash platform based on innovation that was derived out of Silicon Valley. And you know, a lot of our folks came from big data, big analytics companies, and most importantly, consumer-facing companies. What that means to you is we have a very, very easy to use, very simple platform that's highly performant, and just makes your whole life a lot easier, right? So when we kind of look at what that makes up, right, we want to kind of have a concept of putting your data to work for you, right? It's kind of like the old adage of you'll never make money by working for your money. You can make money by having your money work for you, right? Put your data to work for you instead of working for your data. And when we kind of look at that, there's really kind of three key pieces to that. One is certainly speed, right? You want to do everything that you do today, but you want to do it faster, right? So that means taking reporting and cutting it down from maybe 10 hours to 1 hour, or being able to do backups faster or recoveries faster, right? Everything just needs to happen faster than it does today. While you're doing that, you also want to be able to gain pretty key insights into your data, right? And that can come in a lot of different ways, and it can be reporting, it can be development, software data analytics. You know, one of the newer things on the market is artificial intelligence and those kind of things. So we're really looking and leaning forward into you know, new stack type of applications to kind of power that. And then last but not least is being very, very agile, right? So agility means being able to very easily shift from what you were doing yesterday into what you need to do tomorrow. And that's really the important piece about it from a data management aspect, right? And when we kind of talk about histories, right, everybody likes a good history lesson every now and then. You know, we kind of started with the traditional application that runs on a database, that runs on a server. We kind of moved into the virtualization in which you had multiple applications on multiple VMs running on the same server, but we're kind of moving into a third generation. Everybody knows this. It's no secret that a lot of things are cloud, but more importantly, not only are they cloud, but they were born in the cloud. They're meant to be highly, highly scalable applications. They've never existed in a traditional data center, and you need to have a platform that can fully support what those cloud workloads are demanding. Part of that infrastructure is really these four key components, right? It has to be simple, right? We can't add complexity going to a cloud-based solution. That would be the absolute opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. It also needs to be basically on demand, meaning I can burst and have any type of workload run on this whenever I need it to. Elastic, meaning you know, very, very simple aspect, meaning I can have whatever I have today, and if I need to grow that at some point in the future, I can do that without being penalized. And then obviously innovation is key to driving all of it, right? You know, just from a quick aspect, Pure Storage, the software stack we have with that and all the software we develop is included with your purchase of your array. So if we come out with a feature down the road, you'll just get access to that feature with a non-disruptive upgrade. right? So if we kind of look at where we're at with traditional cloud solutions, right? They give you a lot of flexibility. They give you burstable compute. They give you access to different types of storage connections. But the problem with it is it's not very reliable, and it's becoming more and more expensive to run, right? The more and more stuff you put in there, the more and more surprise bills you typically see out of that. What if you can have the same exact fundamental architecture of a cloud, but you get to own it, you get to have a more reliable experience, and at the end of the day, you don't have to necessarily worry about the security aspects of it as well, right? So, you know, the flexibility of having an on-premise hybrid cloud solution is really where most customers are going. There was always kind of this age-old debate of, you know, is the cloud going to win? Is on-premise going to win? And ultimately, what it's coming down to, it's really a hybrid solution, right? Put things in the cloud that make sense to be in the cloud, but you know, most of the time, the crown jewels of the companies are still left in their own data centers, or at least something that's controlled by the company. Right. So at Pure Storage, we've developed what we think is the cloud era platform for storing your data, right? And that has a couple different connotations to it, right? So there's the flash array for block, VM, and REST access, and then our FlashBlade, which are our file and object storage. So whatever type of data access you need to store your data, we have a solution for you. And all of our solutions are 100% all flash, so very, very responsive, very, very fast, very, very dense. And you can see some of our customers that really kind of use this. And the thing I want to point out here is not to just show our customer list, but the important thing is that everybody can use this storage platform, right? So we service a lot of public sector entities, small businesses, enterprises, cloud solutions, and even one of our highest growing segments is SaaS-based companies, right? So companies that provide a service that's online. And you can kind of see here again, Pure Storage has been the leader in this space, in the all-flash array space for 4 years in a row, and we continue to expand our lead in that space, mainly because we built this array from the ground up to work with flash and in kind of these new age characteristics. Certified Net Promoter Score, this is kind of really what's important, is that pretty much any interaction we have with Pure Storage support gets a survey sent off to a third-party validating company, and they simply ask a question, hey, do you recommend Pure Storage? And it's no different than you going out to your mother or daughter and saying, hey, do you like your iPhone? Yes or no, right? Do you like your Pure Storage? Yes or no, right? Overwhelmingly, people like Pure Storage. So again, if we kind of talk about cloud era flash, right, there's really kind of 3 key components to it under the covers, right? Software is really where our bread and butter is. That's what really defines us as a company, but a little bit like Apple, in which they built an iPhone to go with their software, Pure Storage built a hardware platform to go with their software, right? So traditionally, we develop our system on, commodity components, but we've since moved on to platforms that were designed by us and built by us so that we can accelerate our software even further, right? So we have a very, very modular and stateless architecture that allows you to really mix and match components non-disruptively while you're going, right? Once you install the array and get it up and running the first time, you should never ever have to take that workload offline again, and that includes software upgrades, hardware upgrades, capacity additions, and even generational hardware upgrades. And then last but not least, all of that is tied into our Pure One portal, which is our cloud-connected and analytics platform. So when we kind of look at the types of data that typically exist in a data center, this first kind of lighter gray area is where Pure first started, a few years ago to get into the business. Since we added our FlashBlade product, right, we can tap into a much larger market that has really a lot of growth around it, which is scientific, seismic, research, genomics, analytics, IoT type devices, right? A lot of this really kind of cloud era growth platforms is really where you're kind of seeing all of this stuff, right? And these are kind of traditionally defined by traditional workloads as block storage, and kind of new age applications, which are more file and object based. Right? And each one of these products just naturally fits really, really well into that. Traditional data centers, right? Racks and racks of gear. When you kind of look at it, you see all of these different applications. Citrix, Splunk, everybody under the sun runs on these older style things, but you can consolidate those and move to what we call top of rack flash, right? Or even a flash stack style of solution that's jointly developed by Pure and Cisco to really kind of consolidate and speed up all of these different workloads. What does that look like in action? You can see traditional data center here after Pure Storage here. The platform allows you to start small and grow. So even if you start in one of our smaller end platforms, you can very, very quickly and easily move into these other platforms. The controller itself is built for the same unit no matter which one you buy. So if you start with a small unit and you need to move up units, you just simply swap the controllers out and move on. We've also developed what we call our FlashArray-X. The FlashArray-X is our 100% NVMe-based storage. NVMe-based storage is kind of the next era of flash in which it allows you to kind of break away from the SAS and SATA bottlenecks in a traditional architecture and move to a PCIe-based architecture, and that's what our FlashArray-X is designed to do. Last but not least, the technology is amazing, and I can certainly talk all day about that, but the most important piece about Pure Storage is what we call evergreen storage. Evergreen storage is a mechanism that allows you to never ever have to rebuy your initial purchase. So what happens with evergreen storage is you buy your array day one, and then every 3 years with paid maintenance renewal, which is flat and fair, meaning it'll never go up, you'll get a free upgrade to our then latest controllers, and there's no caveats to that. So an example of this is our older systems that were based on, kind of Intel white box servers have now moved into our FlashArray-M platform. Customers that have simply renewed their maintenance have gotten a free upgrade to this platform. In 3 years' time, when a customer goes to upgrade again or renews their maintenance again, they'll get a free upgrade to the NVMe-based controllers, right? And this is in a perpetual motion that allows you to never ever have to rebuy. Same thing with our capacity, right? So you never ever have to rebuy your capacity again. So over time, as your capacity becomes either older technologically or less dense over time, you can trade that in and get capacity credit towards something new, right? All of this is included with every single Pure Storage array, right? All of the software is always included. So if we have a software update, you simply do a software update and you get the features that go with that. And this is kind of what the life cycle looks like, right? Acquire your storage, you're running it, upgrade it if you need to, and then we'll continuously keep you up to date on technology. What does that look like in action, right? Back in 2012, when Pure first really started taking off, this is what 1 petabyte of effective flash capacity was, right? 6 full racks of gear, and it's almost been cut in half every single year. Most importantly, if you kind of look at these systems on the left, you'll notice that these controllers are a little bit different than this one, right? So customers that bought in this time frame, if they renew their maintenance in 2015, they get a free upgrade to this system, right? Again, if this customer renews their maintenance out here in 2018, they'll get a free upgrade to our FlashArray-X platform, right? And this, again, is perpetual. LinkedIn is a really big customer of Pure Storage, and this is kind of the life cycle of what LinkedIn has done over time, right? They started on our smaller arrays, they had capacity, they upgrade controllers here, and then in 2016 they do a capacity consolidation and kind of rebuild their system a little bit to make it more dense, right? And they just kind of continuously do this. This is 100% non-disruptive operations. I really want to emphasize that in which you never have to take your workload offline to do this. What does this look like, or what does this mean to you? 53x capacity increase from day one to where we're at today, right? This system on the left-hand side or the right-hand side can support up to almost 1 petabyte of effective capacity now, which our older systems were obviously quite a magnitude smaller than that. You can see the different metrics that go with that. Yeah.
hate to interrupt you, but we have to wrap up. We only have an hour scheduled, and we just wanted to give them a quick intro on the product, and we can follow up to dive deeper.
Sure.
Thank
so, do you want a quick demo? Or do you guys have to break up?
Time. We only have 3 minutes. We have one more giveaway, and we do have one question on Zerto. So we'll go ahead and address that question real quick. The question was, does Zerto do physical server backup? So I will let Rodney go ahead and answer that, and then we'll do the last giveaway. Are you still there?
Sorry about that. I was on mute the entire time. So as I gave the answer. So yeah, no, we live in the hypervisor, so it's virtual machines at this time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And the final gift is the Oculus Rift, and the winner is Rod Lewis. I'm sorry. We have one more. We have one more question. This one is on Pure Storage, and it says, what is the name of the Pure appliance that is designed for unstructured data?
That appliance is called the Flash Blade.
Yep. Thank you, Chad.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
All right. If you guys have any additional questions or those who won prizes, please send me an email. Oh, there's something. It's Justine, Justine, at freeit.data.com. And we thank everyone again for joining us. I don't know what happened to our slide deck. I apologize. But we will actually be sending everyone a copy of the deck. And as I mentioned, we'll also follow up with each one of you individually. And if you'd like to set up another call or meeting, we can go ahead and do that. Okay? So have a great rest of your day. Thank you.